certain, but I think it was paid. Let me not just say, I think it was paid.
Politician.
Eh? The Air Force, they were not paid. They don't pay.
My name is Shino Gbadegeshin. I'm the CEO, Gozi Micro Insurance. Continue to watch Souq News.
Adenike Adeyemi, Executive Director of Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hey everyone, Majuli Obaje here representing Gigi. Keep watching Souq News, okay? Stay updated with Souq News.
My name is Aton Kene. I am the head of MSME banking. Please keep watching Souq News and stay glued to Souq News.
I recommend that more and more people should watch Souq News because they deal with business news.
Hi, my name is Amaka Wokolo. I am the director of the Faith Institute at Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
It's a great day to have conversations on the front burners. I am Blessing AG. Thank you for joining. Change is something that happens over time. So let's take a step in that direction this morning as weeknight conversations that will spark up change. My gentlemen are in the studio with me this morning. Dr. Dausa and Priya Kumale are ready to start up the conversation as we have lots of issues to handle here. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Blessing.
Good morning.
Good morning, Priya.
Yes.
Good Nigeria out there. It's another day. We're here to bring issues that are very important to our common well-being. And we're on the side of the people.
Okay.
Nigeria must be great.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at some stories that made headlines, and we'll begin a conversation from there. Something happened over the weekend, even before the weekend, I think Friday exactly, between the Nigerian Air Force and Ikeja Electric. That has been an issue generating lots of reactions from Nigerians. And the story has it that there was some misunderstanding or certain issues that needed to be handled, but the way it was handled, it go down well with many Nigerians. So the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association has urged the federal government to swiftly address the mounting electricity debt owed by military bases across the country. According to a statement issued on Friday, this call comes in the wake of a violent attack by Air Force personnel from the Sam Ethan Air Force Base, Ikeja, on Ikeja Electric offices in Isolo and Alausa, Lagos, following the disconnection of power to the base over unpaid bills running into billions of naira. Okay, so there are critical issues here. One is the issue of unpaid electricity bills. There was a time that MDs of government were even called out by discos over unpaid electricity bills. This one directly concerns the Air Force base owing debt, and they haven't paid. So Ikeja Electric disconnected them, and then men of the Nigerian Air Force invaded the premises of Ikeja Electric, and we saw some footages of that online. Some staff of Ikeja Electric trying to flee for safety, scaling the gate, scaling the fence just to be able to evade the hands of or be out of the reach of officers of the Nigerian Air Force. And so the Nigerian Employers Consultative Forum is asking that the military bases that are owing should pay up their bills. But first, their reactions regarding the manner in which this happened. You're the one owing bills. You're the one who went to the NEPA base, the Ikeja Electric office, and then there was violent attack there, or what happened there was violent. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that we see this abuse of power and privilege a lot in our environment, and I think there are things that should be unheard of in my personal view. I don't think people should take laws into their hands, and that's not, especially those who are also empowered to actually enforce law, like the Air Force authority. They should know better that it is not in their place to use violence to resolve civil issues. By the way, what are they doing in public space? They are not supposed to be in the public space, and that's just one side of it. But I think the bigger problem, which is what we are dealing with, is the fact that we have also refused to evolve as a people. I know elsewhere, you don't see people carrying ladder up and down to disconnect light. It's high time the Nigerian electricity sector is completely digitized. If you are in America today or you are in UK and your credit ran out, nobody tell you to go and pay. Is it not you remain in darkness or you go and recharge? So I think it is the opacity in the system that's creating this window. It doesn't matter who you are. All that they need to do is that they need to meter everybody. So you pay as you use. So this issue of overhang debt, which is even an albatross on the electricity supply in Nigeria, will no longer be there. A lot had been done to do this, but because we micromanage a lot of issues, we are not able to actually achieve results. What will it take for electricity distribution companies to engage experts who can produce meter and install meters in homes, institutions, that people will have to necessarily service their meter? And then this issue of having hired people to go about town with ladder trying to remove light will no longer be there, in my view, honestly.
But there is also accusation from some quarters against the discos that they have been the ones making it difficult for consumers to be metered. Some consumers claim that they have applied for the meters, paid for it, but they still have to wait a long time. Some even have to bribe in order to have meters. Now, if that is correct, does it look like the discos are the one breeding the monsters now that is attacking them? Because if you had metered institutions and individuals, the issue of estimated billing, unpaid bills would not even arise. Even though this particular one is from a long time, I think 2013, it's like this particular base, Air Force base, had been owing since 2013.
Okay, so first of all, Nigerians who are saying, because while going through the report, some Nigerians say, yes, no, this serves the Ikeja electricity right for the Air Force officials to come there and did what they did. However, no, it doesn't serve them right. We know that the electricity distribution companies are not at their best, and they're not doing, in fact, like you rightly mentioned, that some person must have paid for the meter and paid for a whole lot of things, and yet they do not get the services that they should have got, and whatever they need to work. That is not right. And sometimes when you talk about taking them to court, it's another hurdle, because Nigerians at this moment do not have money to go spend in court. But the thing is this: growing up, I admire the Nigerian. I grew up almost in the barrack area, where every day I see the Nigerian police, I see the Nigerian Navy, I see the Nigerian Army, I see the Nigerian Air Force, and sometimes I see custom officers. The Nigerian Air Force, the way they carry themselves, the way they are attired, the way they conduct themselves, most of the time people attach some form of very, very decent people. The Navy is decent too, the Army is decent, most especially when you see their officers and you're going to school as a secondary school student, you'll be aspiring to be one of these persons, most especially if you live along the barracks area. I'm talking about Ashanti barracks, Arakan barracks area that is close to Ajegunle. And we could see them. And some of the times we see the abuse of power coming from the Nigerian Army and coming from the Nigerian Navy, and the way they deal with civilians. And they feel like, if you continue with the way you are disciplining this guy, will I call it discipline or assault, he's going to die. That they just don't understand the fact that, look, you were trained. You are a military officer, you were trained for this purpose, to endure pain. And you are not a civilian. You were trained for war. You were trained to endure severe pain. Civilians who are not trained that way, you deal with them that way, they are going to die. And we've heard stories where things like that happen and some of them died. So if you have been disconnected, we all know the escapees of the military in this country. What will it take a civil organization and institution to go and disconnect them? It means it must have gone beyond the line. And they've sent warnings ahead, even before now. Yet there was not. So we expect the higher echelon of the Nigerian Air Force they should have called the Ikeja electric buses to have a conversation, not taking laws in their own hand to go and to do this. And for the fact that we've not heard any information or anything from the Nigerian Air Force spokesman, either at the Lagos state, at the state level, and we've not heard anything coming from institutional level, calls for great concern. Now, if they are going to continue to hold this way, what are we saying? During the yearly budget that they present the budget demands to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly looks at it and passes it. What are we saying? That the monies meant for light bills were not voted in? And even if they were voted in, why didn't he pay? So the government needs to investigate this to make sure that the people at the higher echelons of the Air Force, of the Nigerian Navy or Air Force, including the Nigerian immigration, that are owing the electricity companies, for them to pay or to ask questions. The money that was set aside for this purpose, for electricity, did you spend it for that purpose? Or did you put it into private use or private pocket? We need to start asking those questions, because this act doesn't speak well of the laudable and decent institutions such as the Nigerian Air Force. And the government should try to review this process, most especially the budgetary process, so we start removing that of electricity from the first line charge of the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Police, or the Navy, so we don't have issues like this to reoccur. This is a private business.
Okay, let's even look at the way the private business is run. You talked about Nigerians commenting on the situation online, and some saying that what happened at Ikeja Electric, the staff of Ikeja Electric deserve it, serves them right. There's a reason people say that. And it's because of the experiences that some Nigerians have had with the discos, not just Ikeja Electric. Discos across different states in Nigeria, where you are given estimated bill, and then in your assessment, it's not commensurate with your usage, or is way above your usage. And people apply for meters. The difficulty in accessing these meters is one issue. It's almost like the meters are not available in the country, but people pay for these meters, and some people have to even lobby to get the meters. That's on one hand. Secondly, when there are complaints, how does the discos handle it? How do discos handle it? Do they treat consumers like this is a private business? in their disposition towards consumers? Is there anything that shows that this is private business, and so we treat you as a consumer knowing that you are critical to our business? Or it's about the fact that you don't have a choice. Do you want electricity or not? So however if we want to treat you, we do that. That may be where those who are saying serves and right come from. But again, looking at it doesn't serve anybody right to be intimidated, particularly when the person who's intimidating is the one who's owing. You have unpaid bills of billions of naira. Let's spread this round, because it is not only the military bases that are guilty of this, MDAs of government. Now, when some of them are using electricity, I don't think that they should pay up or do not want to pay up. Is it that they feel entitled that because they are a government agency, so they should be given certain privileges of continuous usage of electricity without paying? Now, how does one entity begin to owe bills from the year 2013 up to the year 2025? Did you expect that that privilege you've been enjoying should continue? Do they not realize that it's a business that is running at loss? Like you said, there should have been some discussion. I think, I want to believe that before that disconnection happened, there have been several reminders to the Air Force base concerned that you are owing bills. You are owing bills. So we'll continue this conversation after the break.
Jesus is Lord.
Gladys! Oh, yeah, come and check their talk back since they did not hear me since.
Oh, shit!
Let us not take class. Get out from my front. Stone now! Yes, stone now! You don't even know what to
Take him out.
So you know he's not well. We are managing him.
Take him out. Take him out.
He has been missing his appointments. He should go for it.
National Women's Day, and I'm using this opportunity to urge everyone, every woman on the surface of the earth, to continue to take bold steps towards incredible action.
Let's say you're speaking for NEPA now, so they
I'm not
like
speaking for them. I'm not speaking for
okay,
them.
it was pretty.
I have trashed them by saying that they didn't do well. So I'm not saying
Thank
that.
you for speaking for NEPA. They brought light.
So I'm not speaking for them.
This young man is doing well.
One good talk deserve another.
Please, how do you say it in Yoruba? Give them light. Black, how do you say it in Yoruba? Give them light. You are not even Yoruba. How do you say it?
We're moving forward.
Give them light. No, if I'm like we say, give them light. Give them light. Yes, I was hearing before. I don't know what happened.
I did hear at one point, but when we started, I
So
couldn't
probably
hear
there's a touch. Something is touching.
Because I've been in there now shouting, both of you can hear me, can hear me, can hear me.
You can hear.
I think this year is moving forward together. We've done so much in the region. And so
No, it's gone off. I think it's the battery. It's the battery.
Working together to ensure that more women get educated, more women get to leadership positions and make policies that will aid the future, the betterment of all women.
In a world where women have realized their worth and continue to explore the limitless potentials available, our rules can no longer be on the mat. We have seen great women do great things all over the world, and we can't but celebrate ourselves, recognizing the milestones reached and the barriers we continue to break. We are the heartbeat of change, the archetype of progress. Despite the obstacles, we thrive. We don't wait for change to come, we make it happen. We accelerate action, we push forward and demand inclusion to build a world where every woman's potential is fully realized. Today we rise, we lead, and we transform, because we know that when women move forward, the world moves with us. So let's accelerate action now.
For centuries, women have been fighting wars.
Many thanks for staying tuned to the front banners. Now we'll move to policy discuss. Before the break, we were talking about the ugly situation that happened at Ikeja Electric, the issue between the Nigerian Air Force, the base at Ikeja, and the Ikeja Electric staff. So we do hope that this issue is resolved quickly. But the message from here is that as a society, we do not condone violence in any way, under any guise, for any reason. I think this issue can be handled amicably, and so conversations should happen between Ikeja Electric and the military base. If you're owing that wrong precedence, if touts had done this, we know the kind of condemnation that would have happened. But if officers that are supposed to be law-abiding, law enforcers, protecting the territory of Nigeria are the ones intimidating the citizens, it is not a good message at all. We'll leave it at that for now and move on to the next conversation, which is a more broad conversation on security. So there have been several efforts by Nigerian government, Nigerian military to tackle insecurity and bring to an end terrorism. But what do we find really happening? We still find that the issue of terrorism is far from being over in Nigeria. What is the challenge with Nigeria's security architecture? We'll look at this conversation today as we have a guest who joins virtually this morning to talk about this. Bring in the guest at some point, but first, the gentlemen on the table need to have their take on the issue. Several years of tackling terrorism in Nigeria. First, it would seem like what's going on when we started hearing of bomb blast here, bombs being detonated, suicide bombers, that we moved away from that challenge to now bandits attacking communities and rendering a lot of persons homeless because people had to run for their lives and flee to other areas. And so we had internally displaced camps set up in different parts of the country. It has been several years down the line. We still have those camps running, and some of those people, they're unable to return to their country. Monies are being earmarked to boost security in the country year after year. We find that the military taking a huge chunk of the budget, and still this war has not been fought to the end. What can we say are the challenges bedeviling the fight or hindering the victory over terrorism, Doc?
Well, I think, in my view, there are a couple of factors one can look at as a layman perspective. Is the fact that the society itself generally is at war with itself. And these tensions have been created over the years as a result of misgovernance. There's so much distrust between the government and the people. And this distrust is what is really empowering the challenge that we seem to face. Because that's where you see a kind of a collaboration between the state and the people. Because some of these criminals we talk about, they are not spirits. They live in communities. But like somebody asked me a question some days back. You asked me to go and report a matter to police. And then I become the accused. Because of the way matters are treated. You are supposed to be blowing whistle so that police can understand that there is something. And now you have to write statements You have to spend the whole of your day. You have to be explaining, and then they have to be calling you back and forth.
Okay, we'll look
So
deeper
you find that
into the
this
scenario
is really making security difficult because people are not willing to support personnel.
Okay, we have a guest who's joined in now. He's Vince Onyekwelu, a former British police officer, national security risk strategist. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining in. Okay, let's have this conversation. In the course of my intro, I mentioned that for several years, Nigeria has been fighting terrorism, but that fight is yet to be won. And in the terrorism index globally, Nigeria is still ranked very poorly. What are we not doing right?
A multi-billion industry, multi-billion naira industry in Nigeria. And at times, it's very difficult to even see the future of this terror war ending. Also, having in the back of our minds what's happening in the Sahel area of Africa, where Nigeria also falls within. And if you also look in that terror index, you will see our neighboring country, Niger, being also number 5. And also down the road, Burkina Faso is also there. So you can see the Sahel region of Africa is the most terrorized region in the world. And obviously, without the peace in the African Union, without the peace in the Sahel region, your guess can be as good as mine that it's quite difficult for Nigeria to sustain this war against terror without our very porous borders, national borders, where criminals, where illegal and corrupt traders can bring in contrabands. We don't know who leaves the country. We don't know who comes to the country. And I know the military has in section 27.1 of the Nigerian 99 Constitution as amended, they were given a task to secure the sovereignty of our nation, our territorial borders, and then our national borders. Are the military doing that? Obviously, they are not doing that well enough. And in the absence of all these things I've mentioned, you can see that our future in the war against terror is very bleak. And I hope there can be new strategies to manage it.
Thank you. A number of people have argued that the whole volume of resource that, for example, a country like Nigeria pump into the hardware is really not producing result. That there's a need for us to actually focus energy on the software components and see how we can actually reduce the things that are motivating people to join this terror war. Issues of poverty, issues of unemployment. Do you think that this will be an approach that can work?
Yes and no. First, yes. I believe in a society where we have been ranked as the poverty capital of the world. It will have its negativities, obviously, because if people are not employed, gainfully employed, if people are paying millions to put their children in university, in tertiary education, to learn handwork, to learn how to be a vulcanizer, how to be a tailor, and all those things, and they're not getting enough support from the federal government of Nigeria. That means a lot of people will be idle, and an African proverb that the idle mind is devil's workshop. So I think the federal government needs to wake up in that segment of helping people to be more empowered Empowered, not in the sense of saying, oh, we've shared 500,000 naira to poor people in this region of the country, or we are giving market women money. There is no accountability. I don't know if the money is a grant, which is free, you don't pay for grants. I don't know if it's loans, which you must pay for loans. So the issue, the strategy of soft approach is very important. I support it. Soft approach could also help the people, the citizenry, to feel the impact of the efforts of the federal government. But right now, many schools of thought would believe that this terror industry has become a multi-billion naira industry, and the people at the top, most of the times, are not feeling the pains of terror because it's rare for them to be affected. Yet maybe the foot soldiers, the young officers that go to the battlefronts may be affected, but the top officers are rarely affected. For the citizenry across Benue, across southern Kaduna, across the northeast, across the southeast, across the south, people are feeling the pains of terror. And it even breaks my heart when you hear the so-called military leaders saying that they are forgiving terrorists because they have repented. I don't understand that language. As a former law enforcement officer, yes, I respect the principles of forgiving people, but it doesn't mean that if somebody comes into a community and kills 100 women and children, and after 6 months they say, oh, they've surrendered, forgive them. Sorry, I don't understand that forgiveness. And because you've repented, if you give us collaboration, intelligence that helps our work, we could say, okay, instead of getting 20 years in jail, we can give you 10 years. We can give you 12 years. We can give you 7 years for you to know that we appreciate the effort you made to collaborate with us to give us credible intelligence. But I don't support the idea of just forgiving people just because they surrendered. What of those souls, those blood, the mother they've massacred? No, that is not a wise soft approach.
Thank you very much, Officer Vincent. I don't mind if I call you Officer Vincent. Now, the Global Terrorism Index, which is a report that is published annually by the Institute of Economics and Peace, founder by Mr. Steve Killile, has said that Nigeria, at this moment in time, is in the 6th ranking globally for countries that are most affected by terrorism. The argument from the Nigerian military is that you cannot put up such data without consulting those who are undergoing this particular trend, this fighting terrorism and all that they've put in place to stem the tide of terrorism in Nigeria and in Africa. So if you are conversant with this trend, what are the conditions? What are the criteria for measuring this? And why do we say that Nigeria belongs to the 6th position? This is the argument that is coming from the Nigerian military. Do you want to tell us some of those conditions and why Nigeria fall into that specific 6th position globally?
Obviously, personally speaking and professionally speaking, I think the stance of the Nigerian military is a very weak defense to the ranking of the Global Terrorism Index. It's very weak because, number one, the gentleman from the military that made that weak defense was referring to, oh, if there's a problem in my household, where I'm the leader of the household, how can you rely on an outsider to give you feedback instead of relying on me, the leader of the household? I think with that kind of statement, you can see that that particular military spokesperson, is not probably empirically endowed in research methodologies because we call this a global. We didn't call it his household terrorism index. Number two, when you talk about indexes, they use indices to actually make these projections. At times, they also use AI, artificial intelligence. At times, they also use factual information in the field in the nations, in the countries, look at the countries that came first, second, third. Did you hear them try to say, oh, we shouldn't be number one? And those countries that came first, the Burkina Fasos of this world, it's obvious because we are all journalists. We rely on information sharing. Are you shocked about Pakistan being number two, knowing the terrible things that happens in Pakistan? Are you surprised that Niger is there? Are you surprised that Mali, with the issue of the N23 going on across the world? Are you shocked? So, but if you look at this indices, they use trending issues. And I can tell you off my head in Nigeria, this year alone, how many terrorism attacks have we had in Nigeria across almost all the regions of Nigeria? And I think maybe it's only the Northwest that have a reduced number. Not that they have a significant reduced number, but across Northwest, Northeast, North Central, Southeast, South, Southwest. And in many of those issues, the military themselves are involved. Remember, when we talk about the military, we talk about the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. Three of these armed forces form what we call the Nigerian military. So if you look at what happened last year in Okwama, in Niger Delta, in Delta State to be precise, there you have the military actually terrorizing the community by themselves because one or some of the officers were harmed or killed, which I do not support. I do not support the harming or the killing of any uniformed officer, be it the military or be it the police or anybody. I do not support it. I also do not support the military having the effrontery to move into a community and target everybody, pull down buildings, destroy lives, destroy everything, even arrested the president general of the community, who now died in the custody of the military, arrested the treasurer of the community, who also died in the custody of the military. What else is terror? When the world are watching, monitoring, gathering information. And how do they gather this information? They do have NGOs. They do have non-governmental organizations planted in countries. And these NGOs are funded by these organizations outside Nigeria. And they gather data, credible data for them, and send back to them. So we have these ways of capturing data. And these NGOs are doing this capturing for them. This on Ash Wednesday, 6th of March, a reverend father of the Catholic Church was murdered. The US mission in Nigeria condemned it. The world condemned it. What did you hear from the Nigerian military about that? A Catholic priest. Muslims have been murdered. Christians have been murdered. Traditionalists have been murdered. Last 2 weeks, the numbers keep growing. Have you heard the military to say what has happened? To give us an update about that crime scene? Were any arrests made? Pictures of the people are arrested? So all this comes together to make Nigeria number 6. And I'm surprised they were busy trying to say that it's not proper. However, when the same kind of indices favors the military, they will welcome it. But when it does not favor the military, they will say, oh, it's not right. I think that is a very wrong research mindset to have. Thank you.
The defense, the head of defense media operations, who was refuting this report and saying that as the head of his house is the one to tell the person outside what happens, which you have said it's not a tenable excuse, or they can't even stand on that. But let's even look at what the military is putting out as its own data regarding the fight against insurgency. So the military had to say that in the fight of against insurgency, a lot has happened. They've been able to arrest those who are involved in the terrorism. They've killed 92 terrorists, including a key terrorist commander, and additionally, the military arrested 111 criminals and rescued 75 hostages within a single week. And then he touched on what's going on in the southeast, where there is a sit-at-home order. And he says, in spite of the effort, there's an operation Udoka ongoing. The people are afraid to come out, even when the military is doing its work. Let's look at the participation of the people in the fight against terrorism. Now, these terrorists that are in hideouts in bushes, we're told the Sambisa forest is like where they have a lot of the operations ongoing, and it seems like that area cannot be combed. But there are people who take food to these terrorists wherever their hideout is. There are people who take materials and other needed things or supplies to these terrorists. They are not ghosts, they are human beings. And we can say that they are Nigerians. Maybe some of them may not be Nigerians, but they are also Nigerians. What role is the people playing in all of this? If the military is doing their own work or putting in effort, what should be the complementary role of the people? Is the military even using the people enough in terms of intelligence gathering for the fight against terrorism?
Thank you for that question. Listen, we must appreciate the effort the military, has done, they are doing. However, as a professional, at times it's laughable because we know the mandate given to the Nigerian military, and there is this school of thought that is beginning to build opinions, which I don't know if they are founded opinions or unfounded opinions. The career of the military is beginning to dwindle. The military career is beginning to dwindle because many nations don't see war as the first or second option. Many nations now have a union of nations. Example, in the ECOWAS, it's quite difficult for any two ECOWAS countries to war with each other because ECOWAS will step in to find peace before war becomes the first or second option. And in the African Union, it's difficult to see two African nations going to war against each other because the African Union will step in, and if any of the countries are found guilty, there are sanctions, economic sanctions, trade sanctions they can use to bring them back to the talking table so that war is not the first option. The same thing in the European Union. Apart from obviously Russia is not a member of the European Union, neither is Ukraine a member of the European Union. So it's quite difficult for uh, two nations in the European Union to start fighting against each other. The same thing in the Americas. The same thing, in the Asia. Obviously, Hamas and Israel do not belong to this union because if they belong to the same union, there will be issues to find solutions. So where am I driving at? There is this opinion, this school of thought that's saying the military career is dwindling. Their importance is no longer as high as it used to be. So therefore, they are finding other avenues to keep themselves relevant, to make themselves relevant in the eyes of the people, so the career will not die. So, example, when you see army, military fighting cultists, arresting cultists, arresting kidnappers, dealing in all those kind of crimes that they are not trained to do. These are crimes that the police are more trained to do, that the DSS are better qualified to do. But you find the army or the military even getting involved in traditional marriages. I've been to events where I see the military, securing traditional events, cultural events, marriages, civilian events, and they'll come with their trucks and just park. So basically, the issue of intelligence gathering for the military, they have their own ways of doing it. However, I believe that these roles does not belong to the military. These are the roles that belong naturally to the police, to the DSS, to the civil defense. But when the police now invites the military to come and support their operation, if they lack manpower, if they need more men, more boots on the ground, more equipment, more weaponry, then the IGP can write officially to the police through the Attorney General or through the National Assembly to invite them. And after they've served what they were invited to do, they will move out and go back to their barracks. However, in the Nigeria of today, the military appropriates, they reprobate, they do as they wish, as if they are that as if we can not do without them. So most of the figures the military are giving to us, that is the correct figures. Who said so? That is their own opinion. If they want to give us reports on the issues of human rights abuses, let the military give us reports about what happened at the Lagos Electric Distribution Company last week when the power to a military barracks was cut off because of non-payment of bills, and the military chose to storm a private civilian enterprise and tortured staff, injured staff, terrorized staff. So when we're talking about global terror index, NGOs could have supplied those pictures and information for next year terror indexing because that is terrorism. You don't just go and carry armed military men on boots and raid Lagos Electric Distribution Company because they cut off your life because you did not pay your bills. Who says you cannot pay your bills? Who ate the money? What happened to the money, if I may ask? Because there should be allocation and budget for paying of electric tariffs or water tariffs. And if you fail to pay, they may have warned you, or maybe they didn't warn you. They disconnected you and you choose to raid them. Look at what happened last year when an general was caught in live video brutalizing a married couple. See, we cannot accept the figures of the military, I'm afraid. I'm not saying the global terror index figures are 100% correct, but they are more open for questioning, for them to defend their data. The military will always have to defend their data to sustain their relevancy in the eyes of Nigerians, to force a dwindling career to be as if it's not dwindling. Nobody goes to war. War is no longer the first option. So I think I cannot accept the military indices.
Thank you so very much for those brilliant submission. Yes, we have seen military in civilian places because of the failure of the Nigerian police generally, as people argued. That because the job is overwhelming for the police, the military always fill in the gap and people are more safe and secure with the military. But put yourself in the place of the Commander-in-Chief of Nigerian Armed Forces. What will you have specifically done to rejig the entire security architecture for effectiveness so that we can overcome this terror war?
Oh, that's a very tough question, but I'll give it a try. Obviously, the commander-in-chief is a wonderful person, a successful businessman, and I'm very impressed with his business career, his entrepreneurial career, his achievements as a person even before he came to power, in Lagos State and also as a Nigerian president. Now, for me, Mr. President is a good man, and I believe he's got the intellectual prowess. He's got the management skills to manage Nigeria and Nigerians and our resources. However, my advice or suggestion to him will be when an African proverb says water has mixed with oil, how do you separate them? It's an African proverb, and I know we are all Africans, and we use proverbs to make statements, and I believe we'll have to understand we are Africans. So Mr. President has to know that in the management of Nigerian security, he has to look at where the oil and water has mixed. Even though they have mixed, you can still separate them. There are chemical or chemistry models of titration and filtration that you can use to separate when two liquids mix. Because oil will remain oil, water will remain water. In this metaphor, water stands for the good. People that have got the good record in the administration, and oil stands for people that have got their hands soiled. And we know these people because they served in their state. Some served as ministers, senators, governors, and all House of Press members. We know their history. Mr. former UN ambassador to Nigeria, I think Akinyele, even mentioned names. So obviously, I'm not going to mention names because we are all Nigerians. But Mr. former UN ambassador mentioned names, and obviously, at a point in Dubai, Dubai government arrested some Nigerian terrorists in Dubai, and were able to trace their funding to Nigeria, and they named names of people in northern parts of Nigeria that we are funding terror in Nigeria. What has the government done with that? What did the military do with that? And I don't support the idea that the police are weak. No, the police are not weak, but the police needs more support, needs more recruitment, needs more population, needs more training to do their job. But when you handcuff the police and throw them into a moving tide of water, what do you expect them to do? Remember, we've had so many former heads of leaders in Nigeria that were from the military. So that's given the military a kind of toga that they are number one. Even at a point in Nigeria, I heard about the military trying to say that the police is not an armed force, that the police is a paramilitary organization. This is the military trying to create undue relevance and attraction. The police is an armed force. The police is not a paramilitary organization. The police is the police. Maybe you can say that the mobile force, which is embedded inside the police force, is a paramilitary organization. But the police is not paramilitary. And these are the kind of technologies that the military bring in Nigeria to create relevance, to demarcate the police, to say they are not armed force organization, and all those things. There are nations in the world that does not have a military. Many nations, but almost every nation in the world has a police. Even in the army, you have the military police, the air police, the naval police, to show you that the police is the police. So I think I will stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, some people will argue that if not for the presence and the work that the Nigerian military is putting into the fight against terrorism, maybe as we speak, Nigeria would have gone into extinction. So, in what way do we need to retool the Nigerian army to make them not only relevant, but at the moment to tackle the spate of terrorism in the country? Because that's one part of the question. The other part of the question is this. What do you think we have lost because of our involvement with fighting terrorism in terms of maybe business, economy, and development? How would you quantify that?
Wonderful question. Let me take the first one first. What do we expect them to do better? They should first do what is in the Constitution of Nigeria. The 1999 Constitution of Nigeria as amended, I think section 27, subsection 1. Territorial integrity. They should focus on that. Our national borders, they should focus on that. If they focus on national borders, what happened in Lagos State last week would not happen. Do you know what happened in Lagos last week? 5 Pakistani nationalities, 5 people from Pakistan were arrested in Lagos involved in kidnapping. The Lagos State command caught them red-handed. Pakistanis, not even Africans, involved. So that makes you ask question, how many other such gangs of transnational criminals or transnational organized criminals are in Nigeria operating because our national borders are porous? What does it take to secure our national borders? With my personal experience in the front lines, I'm not talking about theory, I'm talking about practicals. It takes less than a year operation to secure our national borders. It takes less than a year to secure it. So the military should focus to go and secure our national borders so we know who's coming in and who is going out. We know the kind of materials, the kinds of goods that are coming in, and who is going out. If they do that, then containing what happens inside Nigeria can now start from the grassroots, start from communities, start from towns, start from local government areas. Because every criminal lives in a community, lives in a yard, lives in a street. If our national borders are protected and secure, then crime in communities and in villages, in local government areas can now be managed maybe by the usage of the police or the local vigilantes that are trained by the police that can give report to the police, by the use of what they call kings, emirs, Igwe, and other kind of leadership in communities, because every criminal lives in a community. The state would have even little to do, because once the state supports their communities, their towns, the local government areas, the state can reap the benefits. So it becomes a decentralized approach, not a centralized approach. So if you send the army to my community, they don't know that. Because of the fear of the community, they will not feel comfortable. And in that uncomfort, they may take some drastic actions because every little thing may make them feel threatened. As an Igbo man, we may start saying, Igbo play, hey, hey, hey. And anybody who is not Igbo may think that that sounds like a war sound. Whereas it's just a simple greeting. So I think we don't need to deploy military except the police have done their assessments and write to the Attorney General and write to the National Assembly to invite them. And when they finish, demobilize them back to the barracks. Then the second question you asked, obviously, has to do with the way the Nigerian system has been. We need the military. The military needs us, but we don't have to support the idea of a teacher doing the job of a medical doctor. We don't support the idea of a lawyer doing the job of a medical doctor. The military are overgoing beyond their training, and it's causing us issues in our society. It's bringing lawlessness because you cannot sue them. The police, you can sue them individually and collectively. But the military, an army man who caused problem in a common local government area of Niger Delta last year, you cannot sue them individually because they believe they are above arrest. That's why you see the police fighting with the military in many issues. Why would the army and the police or navy and the police fight? It's because they are taking over the space of the police. And then also look at the issue of ungoverned spaces. We have so many unnecessary ungoverned spaces in Nigeria. And it's either we don't have enough manpower in the military because many of them are involved in war front operations. Many of them are involved in so-called tracing.
Disconnection there with our guest who has joined virtually for the conversation. We hope that is resolved quickly so we can continue our conversation with him. So we've been talking with Vince Onyekwelu, who is a security expert, and he's been talking with us. Okay, we have information now that he's back with us. We'll let him continue his chain of thoughts. Please go on.
Thank you. Sorry for that fantastic Nigerian networks. So, and obviously, as I conclude, when we have the Global Health Index, you don't get the Nigerian Medical Association trying to defeat it. What they do, they embrace it, see what they can correct. When we have the Global Educational Index, we are not fantastic in education delivery right now. That's why most of our parents have to send their kids across to other parts of the world, even to Ghana, South Africa, for them to go and get proper education. You don't hear the Nigerian academy trying to say, oh, this is wrong. So I think the military shouldn't get involved in everything because it doesn't even fall in their forte to even refute. You guys remember what happened during the Simon Eber arrest in Finland? And the chief of army staff, or chief of the defense staff, I may say, was even thinking of going to extradite Simon Eber. It's not the job of the chief of military staff or chief of defense staff to extradite Simon Eber. This is how they are overreaching themselves. It's the job of the Attorney General of the Federation to do that. Ministry of Foreign Affairs to do that. The police to do that. The DSS to work in collaboration with Attorney General to do that, not the military or the army. And that's why people say maybe that's why they had to refuse them visa to Canada. And they were busy complaining. But what is the crime for a country to say, we are Canadians, we don't want you to visit our country? Is that a crime? Why are you fighting? Let's make Nigeria to be attractive so we can also reject others their visa applications. Maybe it's because of all this terrorism index, because of human rights abuses. Thank you.
Finally, I just want to. We've seen the military themselves having to express their, well, I put it now, inability to curtail this crisis because of the support that these terrorists are receiving from overseas countries, because some of the sophisticated weapons that these untrained hooligans use against the Nigerian military is gotten from some of these civilized countries. Diplomatically, what do you think we can do as a nation to be able to curb that incidence of the foreign support for terrorists in our country?
Thank you so much. Personally, as a professional, I am totally against any form of criminal. I'm against it. I do not support it, and I will never support it. When the military track or the police track weapons used in crime scenes, I believe most weapons have got reference numbers, except if they were sawed off. But it's not every criminal that knows how to saw off these serial numbers. And every serial number leads us to the source of those weapons. And if we can track the sources, we can also track how this can move from source A to source B into our beloved country. And that brings us to the issue of national borders. If the military are not doing their job of securing our national borders, our national sovereignty, they have lost 50% of the operation, because these weapons does not pass through any unseen terminals or channels. They pass through our borders, either by land or by sea or by air. The military should focus more attention to secure our national borders, our national sovereignty. Then we can now find out what has entered the country. It's easier that way. At number two, the roles of the NGOs has to be monitored also, because the NGOs that operate in Nigeria, we need to keep better track of their sources of funding, their intentions, their vision statement, their mission statement, to see if they are operating in manners that do not favor us. Look at what somebody like Governor Suludo of Anambra State is doing in Anambra State, targeting so-called native doctors that he believes are trying to encourage the youth of Anambra State to see all this kind of fetish ways of making money, Yahoo, Yahoo, Yahoo Plus, cultism, and he's trying to fight it face off. Even people that are worshippers that try to do all the miracle centers, he's also dealing with them. So I think we need to work on NGOs to look at the registration, their mission, their vision, bring in the EF system, the EF system, even monitor their funding, where their funds come from, what is the purpose of their funding. So that way we can make sure that we don't have groups operating in Nigeria that are doing so against the good image of Nigeria. And I think once we secure our national borders, monitor the roles of the NGOs in Nigeria, monitor their funding, and then allow the relevant agencies to do their job without hinder. If they don't have enough resources, give them the resources, the manpower, the funding. Let the civil defense work properly and professionally. Let the road safety work professionally. I saw the road safety the other day carrying body worn cameras. I was impressed that the road safety have body worn cameras to show what is happening on the highways where they are putting roadblocks. Can we also have the military to wear body worn cameras when they operate on the streets, especially in the southeast or in the southwest, or in the northeast, or in the northwest. Let the military and any other agency that is putting roadblocks where body worn cameras, maybe that will stop the abuse that happens on the road, the financial extortion that leads to even deaths when people refuse to pay money for roadblocks and people end up in beaten or frog jumps or even killed. They should all wear body worn cameras. Why can't they wear it? Because they don't want the truth to be seen internationally and nationally. And how can we believe them to give us the truth about the global terrorism index? So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Just quickly, could you touch on this? When terrorists are apprehended, what should be the proper way or the ideal way to handle them so that they don't get back into the society? We saw a situation where the government at one time was talking about granting amnesty to terrorists that have repented. So how do you ascertain a terrorist have repented? We're talking about de-radicalizing terrorists. Is it something that have been tried elsewhere in the world and there have been success achieved in that regard? And the way we have small groups forming in Nigeria, recently we had a new group that was said to be the newest terrorist groups. So these groups that are forming and we're having more of them, some of them having religious covering and covering from certain ethnic groups. How do we handle them?
Thank you so much for that question. Personally, I believe in forgiveness. I mean, I believe in forgiveness, and I don't believe, let me make this raw. I'm not targeting any of you, the anchor person at the studio, but let me make it raw and also raw to Nigerians that are listening. Let's not try to sugarcoat this. Dear fellow Nigerians, you're watching me right now. How would you feel? I'm talking to you, Nigerian, that is watching me. Yes, you. How would you feel that brutal terrorists invaded your community, your compound, and they murdered your beloved family members, your children, your neighbors, your parents? And after murdering them, they surrendered to the Nigerian military and they are forgiven and they are de-radicalized and they are given taxpayers funding to return back to communities where there are no trackers on them, where there is no AI attached to their ankles to know if they will become repeat terrorists and they come back to your community. Dear Nigerians, dear anchor people, how would you feel? Personally, I'll feel terrible. I'll feel scared. I'll feel traumatized that the murderers of my family were allowed back to the community and many of them return back to criminality. But there's not much track record. There's not much indices or statistics about this repeat criminality. This idea of de-radicalization is just one of those ways to create relevance. I don't support forgiving criminals. Yes, if they have repented, they should still be prosecuted, not allowed to die in military custodies, not allowed to be in tortured in military custodies. They shouldn't be in custody of military beyond 48 hours, 1 week. They should be prosecuted in our law courts. So we can hear the stories of how they were recruited, how they were funded, how they were trained. That would give the police, the DSS, the military a lot of knowledge how to manage them. But when the military lock them up, we don't know nothing about them. If they are still alive, if they've been killed extrajudicially, we don't know. So I don't support the military holding people down because constitutionally they don't have the legal powers to sue those criminals. No, they don't have it. It's the DSS or the police that have the legal powers to sue those criminals. So why would the army or the navy or the air force keep suspects, just like Mr. James and Mr. Dennis from Okwamalo government area that were arrested last year by the military and they died in custody? Who is speaking for them? Those people that died in Benue in southern Kaduna, who is speaking for them? You know why nobody's speaking for them? Because they are poor. Because it's a crime to be poor in Nigeria. So I don't support the killing, the gruesome murdering of Nigerians to be forgiven with the gap that the person has repented. They should still go to court. And if they are found guilty, maybe give them some level of leniency because they have repented. Not only that, because of the repented, but because they give incredible intelligence that has been confirmed. Then they can say, reduce their jail term by 30%, by 40%, by 50%. But the idea of forgiving them because they have repented makes the global terror index to even probably bring Nigeria to number 5 next year, even not even to number 4. We have to stop this kind of nonsense. How can you forgive gruesome killers? Listen, I don't support crime. Whether you're a cultist or you're Yahoo, I don't support it. Whether you're a terrorist, I don't support it. But if the military can give such forgiveness to terrorists, why can't they give the same to the Yahoo boys or the kidnappers or the cultists who say that they cannot also be given forgiveness and repentance? Why or why not? Thank you.
Thank you so much for being our guest on the show today, Vis Oyekolu. Thank you so much for your time and all the questions that you've attended to as we looked at how Nigeria can win the fight against terrorism in the country. We do hope that a lot is done, and next year we do not see Nigeria moving up the global terrorism index, but rather Nigeria comes down, and then so maybe if Nigeria comes down to 15th position, that would be some a good work for the military to be able to achieve that. But we know that it is possible. All hands needs to be on deck to do this. Again, thank you. And we've been speaking with Vince Onyekwelu as he talked about the terrorism fight in Nigeria. He's a former British police officer, national security risk strategist. No wonder the strategies that he's given today on the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a break. When we return, there's another conversation to have. This time it has to do with census in Nigeria. We keep saying we're over 200 million Nigerians. Do we actually know how many we are? Let's find out after this break.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
Hello Nigeria, hello Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East. Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine. I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria. You're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial. Don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria. Love no bad.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, Souq Enlightenment.
At the last count in Nigeria. So since then, it's been estimation or Nigeria using World Bank estimation saying we're approximately or estimatedly 200 Nigerians, over 200 million Nigerians. But we need to know for sure how many Nigerians there are so that when we say this is the size of a population, we know what it is we're talking about. But there have been several back and forth regarding conducting another census. One was supposed to happen in the year 2023, but when the National Population Commission dropped the figure earmarked for that, Nigerians shouted and say, wow, that's a whopping sum. Why don't we just count ourselves and tell you so that we save that money? But right now, there are about 942 billion naira is being earmarked for a census in Nigeria. But the president says, hold on. I think it would be cheaper if we use NYSC members. Why don't we use core members to conduct this census so that it reduces the cost? So, talking about this today, we have Sam Oroje, who is a public and international affairs analyst this morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Blessing. A pleasure.
So if we say how many Nigerians are there, what's the size of our population? It's still estimation. We don't know for sure. But it seems like the National Population Commission is ready this time around. But the challenge is around the figure for it. That has been part of the trouble for quite some time now, the money to conduct the census.
Thank you very much indeed. I think for me, from 1866, where the colonial people started counting Nigerians, particularly the colony of Lagos, census is always a very controversial issue in development. So if you're looking at about 1 trillion being a mark to do another census, I don't think personally that figure is outrageous. If you extrapolate the figure that was used for the last count vis-a-vis the current value for money, I think that money, in my personal view, is not too much. And even when you're proposing that the National Youth Corps member can be used, that's just a fragment in terms of enumeration. And the other element in the census, you talk about housing census, talk about people's census. So the enumeration is far beyond the personnel. The other elements, and I'm sure digital tools will equally be used, and I think they've taken cognizance of that to arrive at this 900 and something billion that you spoke to. But population itself, if you look at the historiography of population, 1866 to 1917, when the amalgamation took place, where you had a combined census, up to the contentious 1951-53 census, to 63 to 73, there's always a controversy. So if we look at the politics of it, then this issue of money that is much to do the counting, in my view, is more political than the actual benefit from the point of view of demography.
Looking at this crisis around census, who is afraid to be counted? Who is afraid of an accurate figure in Nigeria?
The issue, the population has become a major issue in terms of elections, in terms of revenue sharing formula. So if you look at what happened in the 1951-53 census, which was very contentious, where people accused certain people of counting animals and all that to make up a population figure. So that controversy, people are worried that if you get the actual figure right, politically, it might affect certain segment of the society. So, and that's why the controversy in terms of, if you look at Festus Udumegu's figure, why we couldn't fly with that, look at this current figure, it's far higher than what Udumegu proposed, and people criticize it. So, in my view, I'm thinking the politics of it, some people feel that if we really have actual remuneration to affect the access to the national treasury in terms of what come to local government, to state. And those are some of the dynamics of population in Nigeria. And the politics of it, even from the colonial time to the present day, is one of the reasons even Lagos State government contested one of those elections that does not represent the true figure of those who reside in Lagos. So it's more of controversy in my view.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I would like to look at it from a position whereby Nigeria, when I was asking the question, like 228 million. Democratic Republic of the Congo is 115 million. Then Ethiopia, 109 million. So I want to okay, what's the advantage of having a populated country? The economic advantage or the developmental advantage, the business advantage. Now, what gives us away as the most populated country in Africa, and what sort of economic benefits do we have for it?
No, the number, one of the dominant factor why you need to count houses, count people, is for planning. Once you have an accurate census or population, they are able to plan appropriately in terms of disaggregated figures of those who the youthful population, the elderly. So in terms of planning, you're able to plan adequately, even for educational planning, all kinds of planning regime. Population will help government to be able to decide where do we put investment, what kind of population that require XYZ investment. So it's important that you're able to determine your economic fortune if you know the actual population. So for example, you want to invest in primary health care. What is the number of women in childbearing? So you'll be able to plan adequately for them in a way that it will affect national development and productivity as well. So it's an essential ingredient of planning, and it's very important that we need to know our numbers.
All right, so the president doesn't have any problem with the conducting of a census, but he has issues with the budget given the financial reality Nigeria currently has. And so he's setting up a committee and asked that they reassess the budget and align with the nation's current financial reality. He's also asking for the integration of the National Identity Management Commission in the census process so that there can be biometrics done, facial recognition, voice recognition as well to minimize duplication. So there seems to be that trust deficit, which you have given reasons for, and also backtracking that it stems from, it comes from a long time, it's not even starting now. But if we're having all of these challenges towards having census, what is the chance that eventually we would have a census? Why does it become very expensive? We understand that there will be deployment of technology, but if we already have the National Identity Management Commission, which the president is suggesting integration of that into the census, should it not make it cheaper for us to be able to have the census? Many Nigerians already have the national identity number and the card as well.
But I think the National Population Commission, for them to come with that kind of budget, they will have done some kind of level of budgeting based on all the various elements in terms of how the houses will be counted, how the people will be counted. Deployment of digital technology for counting has already been put in place by the Population Commission to that effect. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's better to integrate all the other elements that will make the viability and the reliability of the results in terms of counting appropriate. Maybe when they deploy the Data Management Commission elements into it, maybe the budget might reduce to some extent. But beyond that, there's a politics or there's a political consideration anytime people bring figures. So if you compare the figure of the National Population Commission vis-a-vis that of INEC in terms of election, what is spent for election and the money spent for a reliable population figure, I think in terms of decision making, effort should be placed more on seeing the actual population, because the figure that we're using as an estimate, I'm sure that we have grown beyond those elements. So we have issues in terms of planning with those figures that we're using, 200 and something estimate. And if you look at the population trend globally, we're estimated to grow at XYZ figure by the year 2030. So if you put all those things into consideration, I think the government should make a decision in terms of actually counting people. And like a doctor mentioned earlier, who is afraid of counting people?
Okay, as a follow-up to that, you mentioned the estimation. So this estimation, a lot of times are done by World Bank or other development partners or multilateral institutions. How do you think they're able to do this? Does it cost them so much to even do the estimation? Are there ways of generating data that they're exploring that perhaps such methods are not open or available to the National Population Commission?
No, they are not doing anything extraordinary. They're just doing what you call extrapolation based on the data that we currently have. So do a projection using some other statistical data to arrive at the figure. So it's not that they are conducting census for us. They are using our data. You just extrapolate those data and just say, okay, if this was a count XYZ, this is the current distance. So they are not doing anything extraordinary. They are using our own figure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, what had been used from the baseline that was done in 2006, so we've been using 3.3% population growth annually. So every year we multiply the 160 million people by 3.3%, and then it gives you a new figure. Now, but talking about cost element in this figure, when we say 900 billion, it looks very big, and that's about $600 million that you are looking at in terms of counting people. Now, we also need to put on the ground that, for example, if you're going to recruit people who are going to do the enumeration and numbering. Actual numbering, of course, we're going to pay them. There's a whole lot of expenditure that has already gone into this whole process in terms of the delimitations that have been done for the enumerators who have gone around. Drones were purchased, tabs were purchased to enable for fingerprinting and the rest of them. But I think it's to even do overall assessment first and foremost if those equipment are still on hand, or would this budget still be buying those repeated equipment that was bought or purchased in 2023? Or is there a place that we can also find local solutions from local computer manufacturer who can make things really simple for us? And then also the place of volunteerism in helping to actualize this enumeration process.
No, I think for me, I think I'll focus more on the politics of it. Let's not shy away from those elements where we always talk about figure when it comes to enumeration for counting houses and counting people. And I made an example earlier where I talked about elections, how much is spent on election vis-a-vis a more important element that actualize your development purpose and planning purposes. And we just talk about the figure like you alluded to a little while ago. You had drones purchased. You have people on ground who are going to be the enumerator moving from one house to the other. You have the digital deployment and all that. By the time you put all those things together, 900 and something billion, in my view, is not a big figure. And mind you, there are other international agencies that are in support of the population counting mechanism. So we're going to get some funding from the international agencies towards counting of people. I recall that towards the end of my service here, I partook in one of the census, and even as copper, who were earning some little fraction of money at that particular point in time, were giving money for doing those enumeration.
How much did you earn?
I can't recall, but I know as a copper I was earning 200 naira, but I think they paid us for that census something 450 naira in bulk, and we went to town celebrating. So,
okay, so let's hope that with the president's recommendation to use or suggestion to use core members, that will bring down the cost. And then with the committee set up to reassess the budget, maybe they may find one or two elements to take out that can be done locally or sourced locally to reduce the cost. The president has also asked for alternative funding if they're able to find that before seeking support from international development partners. So let's hope that all of this is achieved. The last time census was conducted in Nigeria is 2006. If you count down, that's about 19 years. It's a long time for a country to be without a census. Thank you very much, Sam Oroji, who is a public and international affairs analyst, for your time with us on the show today.
Thank you.
Up next is Post and Perspectives. Please stay tuned.
Just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
Hello Nigeria, hello Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East. Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
Welcome to Post and Perspectives. Like I always say, this is the show all about you. The idea is we want to say thank you because you join us and you follow us and you listen to the front burners. So we get to read your messages because what you say means a lot to us. My name is Swift Aderito, and let's jump right into it. So the first topic we are taking is NECA urges government to settle military's electricity debt. And this one, I hold it so close to my heart. The first person is Khalifa, and Khalifa says, wait, army barracks are meant to pay electricity bill. He's wondering. It's a thought that should be covered by the government. True. It says they are soldiers, so why would they pay electricity bill? I totally agree with you. And the next person is Sakil, and Sakil says the government have the electricity bill of the military included in an allocation given to them yearly. It says this is a case of mismanagement or embezzlement from those who run the accounts of the military for years. Accumulated debt. I agree with you. And the next person is Austin, and Austin says, at first, why should the military pay for electricity? The government should be the one paying that. You can't expect somebody to serve the country with his life and still pay electricity bill in abroad. Things are not done like this. I totally agree with you. And in fact, this is something very close to my heart. Like I said, the Air Force shouldn't be paying for electricity bills. The military shouldn't be, because they are security places. They are places that should have electricity 24 hours. So the government needs to check that. And of course, the next topic we're talking about is Tinubu rejects 942 billion census budget. You know, they suggest NYSC members, call members again. The first person is Bamilor Sheon, and Sheon says, that's a good point for Mr. President. NYC members are already on federal government payroll, 70,000 naira, that means. So why spend such a huge amount of money on census? However, FG must ensure their adequate security. So yes, people's children don't get killed, I agree. And the next person has to be Sunday Sunday Talk, how you doing? You like to talk, I know. You say using NYC coppers might compromise the accuracy and credibility of the census data. Are they adequately trained for this? That's a good line of thought. And of course, the next one has to do with Nigeria ranks 6th of the most terrorism affected countries worldwide, which is sad. John Ola says, we all know that insecurity has greatly improved even in Borno and Zamfara, which they are using to judge the whole nation. This is evidence in the contraction in security. Another person, which is Galib says, Tinubu is doing well. If not for him, Nigeria would have been #1. Really. And the next person, The next person says, which is Aaron. Aaron, hi. Thank you again for being here. He says Nigeria should be at number 1. Actually, Nigeria is a known terrorist country who continually recruits known terrorists into the so-called military day in, day out. We should be number 1. I want to say thank you to everybody who took their time to drop their comments. If I didn't take yours, please forgive me. I'm handing over to, the sports master himself. I call him Honorable Chooks. Like I always say, have a beautiful day and see you on the other side.
Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Mase Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square. Souq Enlightenment.
Hello and welcome to your show. Welcome to that particular time of the day where we talk money, we talk movement, and we'll tell you who is making it, who is not making it, who is running, who is staying, and who is proposing. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks, and this is Souq Sports. Thank you, front burners, for letting me have this few minutes of the day. Today happens to be the first day of the week, and let's get running with cycling. Now, for those that are wondering, Souq, you heard them well. They have sealed a 6-year deal with Tour de France. That's for the next 6 years. You will see them being present in at least 20 events every year. And that also includes Paris-Roubaix one-day race and a UCI one-day race. So they know that connectivity and visibility is of essence. Let's go straight to Formula 1. Cadillac team is going to be on your screen come 2026. It's what's smiling. It's taken years of planning, and now they are sure to be there. So they are team number 11. F1, Formula 1, you will see them. And when they come with the class, the elegance, and the money. Let's get to athletics. Now, Olympics. Younger ones like us, we used to call it Olympics. Now it's the Olympics. Now, the U.S. Olympic Committee, they are having this good major plan for every athlete that will be taking part from the next Olympics. They are planning $200,000 post-retirement. Now, every other committee and every other games and every other nation should emulate that, because for them, once you are 45 after the games, then you receive at least 100,000, then that will be spread through. Either you get to 45 or the next Just look at something good. So for every athlete, at least they know that they have some form of insurance. Congratulations to them. Now, for those that think that auctions are places where you just go and get fancy cars or articles of ostentation. Now, for those that are still looking at rookie t-shirts belonging to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant will be auctioned, and guess how much? $20 million is expected from that particular sale. So you see, sports memorabilia is big business. So we can also invest into it. Sponsorship. Okay. If you are less than 18, shut your ears. For Premiership clubs, starting from next season, the major branding you get to see on their t-shirts that have to do with gambling companies are going to be banned. All Premiership clubs came together and agreed. But that doesn't mean that you will see them on the sleeve or the sidebar or every other place. But front t-shirt, no more. But they are still part of the game. My name is Souq Joroja. I'll do this again tomorrow. Remember, let's make the money.
You join us to do this again tomorrow, 7 a.m. West African time. If you haven't discovered whatever talent that you have, maybe it's time for you to heed the words of Souq's John Rogers. Maybe you can run, maybe you can jump, maybe you can have sports in your mind like me. Well, let's look for a tournament where that happens so that we can all make some money. I'm Blessing Daiche. I have been doing this today with two partners. One is Dr. Dausa Osamanze and the other is Priya Krumale from Dr.
Nice to know that you're there. We'll be here tomorrow again to do the same, God willing.
Yeah, what's on my mind is that $200,000 post-retirement for athletes. Nigeria should emulate that. We should. Thank you for watching.
Kayode Jakonde in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakonde began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakonde editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakonde established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakonde ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakonde established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakonde was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakonde was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakonde, Souq Enlightenment.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, and monitoring and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. For more information, email us at info@adstudiescenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website www.adstudiescenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
When we talk about women, we don't just see individuals. We see stories of strength, resilience, and limitless potential. Women are the backbone of families, the drivers of economies, the nurturers of dreams, and the forces behind change. From boardrooms to farmlands, from classrooms to innovation labs, they continue to shape the world in the ways both seen and unseen. As we celebrate International Women's Day, we bring you remarkable women across diverse sectors, sharing their thoughts on growth, capability, and the challenges women face, not just external barriers, but also the silent ones, like societal conditioning and the limitations often placed on their ambitions. My name is Grace Komolafe, and it is a special celebration of the International Women's Day.
When you begin to think that it was not until 2007 that women started to get equal pay in tennis tournaments, and it was something that was fought for. Little things like that does not add to equality, but when it was done, it may be small, but at work, even at work in employment, women are still discriminated against. And most women do two jobs. They look after the home and they do the normal work that a man does in an office. Why I fail to understand this inequality in the treatment of women is that the work, the responsibilities in a workplace is not reduced for women, even though we do not want to be paid the same salary as men. It's a fight that has continued, and in that area, I think we need to do more to push for more recognition. Women have contributed immensely to the society. The men that are now resisting equal pay were brought up by women. So that's what I do not understand, that they can think like that. We continue to push.
To the best of my knowledge, a lot of the women that I have come across, I could name 1,000 just sitting here, but that would take all our time. The wonderful energy that comes from having a woman at the top of an organization. If there's a bank, if there's a woman. I remember Mrs. Paula Kuforiji. Such women holding the reins of power in whatever organization they are running. They're not looking down on other women. They're not trying to stop other women from reaching the top. They actually are guiding lights to others to look at and try to achieve that level of achievement, that, like, breaking the glass ceiling, as it were. A lot of women have done that in the area of banking, enterprise, either women like Madame Chinumbu in those days. They were forces to be reckoned with. Mrs. Ransom Kuti. In fact, she was actually not trying to bring down a kingdom, but she was that powerful in her own time. And that's a long time ago. Are you talking about such women? I'm sure they would look back and say, well, some of the women that are coming behind them are not sort of, standing still or staying in one position. They're also moving. Some of the market women, they are the ones that are behind their children's education. Whether they are educated or, as you might call them, illiterates. But still, I didn't have an illiterate woman in my family. Practically every one of them could read and write and sign their names. And they made sure that everybody was aware that they could do that. Even if your family doesn't have that, they don't hold it against you, but they try to encourage you to look at them and see what you can do to improve on the lives of other people. It generates such wonderful energy. The same with women in Ghana. We've noticed that over the years. I was invited to do a documentary on, not only on women in Ghana, but by the time I reached there, a lot of women were in different positions. Women were in the Senate, women in the Parliament. There are some countries in Africa where you have more women than men in the Parliament. And they were not treated as subordinates. They were equals. And they were authorities in their own right. You had women in the universities as professors, as lecturers. I've mentioned Mrs. Ransom Kuti. We don't keep. We can't but help, talking about them, because they were forces of inspiration to a lot of people. And I had teachers, Mrs. Muniz, who was principal at St. Mary's Convent School, and she was in charge of all the female teachers. They didn't discriminate against the men, of course. But then, in a girls' school, you become more aware of your existence as a human being. You knew you had to be the best in your own class. You're not fighting against men, and you're not going to any, boxing tournaments with them. Because, of course, we are the feminine and gender, so we don't want to go into any physical combat with anybody. But when we went to debating societies, some of the women did perform better than the men. As a child of 13, I was in primary school and I went at the film festival to recite poetry. Children came from the Corona schools, English children, but because we were taught by English teachers, we could deliver the lines just as well and even beat the boys. I wouldn't say that, happened all the time, of course. So I grew up with this idea behind my back that, yes, I am here to play my own role as a woman, as a mother, and to other people's children as well, to do the best that you can. If you are the best in any field, you don't want to wait for someone to be playing international women music before you dance. So I've always been in this position where we could start International Women's Organization in Nigeria and call it a big name and ask other people to come and join us and see how forceful women really are. But it's a thing of joy to know that a day is actually set aside for women.
Happy International Women's Day. This year's celebration of the International Woman has been themed Accelerate Action. It calls for intentionality in taking steps that promotes gender equality. At its core, it means creating policies that will not only accommodate women, but policies that would recognize women and recognize their unique contributions to the society. And also, it's a call for the activation of every such policy that has been created, because it is in the activation of such policies that will see a truly transformative society. Now, this is a clarion call for the government to promote policies that recognize women as caregivers, leaders, change makers, and trailblazers. Also to recognize a woman's unique contribution to the society. It is in the recognition of these policies that a society can truly thrive. Now, this is also a call not just for the creation of the policies, but for women to be involved in the process of creating such policies. That is when we can truly ensure that all the objectives of such qualities are met and are achieved. The true progress of any society lies in dismantling barriers. The true progress of any society lies in embracing a woman's unique contributions to the society. Now this is a call to the woman out there. The world needs your voice. The world needs your courage. Your dreams are valid. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dreams. Keep running. Keep working hard. Happy International Women's Day.
Accelerating progress, accelerate action. These are the words that are synonymous with 2025 International Women's Day. And we all know that for a long time, we've not been able to make significant progress. Rather, what we have experienced, particularly in Nigeria, is that things are not getting better at all. For instance, we have peaceful women in the village. That is a far cry to where we're coming from. So there is every need to take intentional steps in order that we'll be able to accelerate progress. Now there are several ways to do this. For me, we need to come to the realization that we've got a part to play. And through my investigations, I've come to discover that as women, we hold ourselves deconditioned. What do I mean by that? Over the years, through social, through cultural, through religious means, we have been conditioned in a particular way. We've been told what to do, stereotype, biases, discriminations. We've accepted all of those things, and there are norms within and outside of our environment, including our homes. And so most times, we're leaving a lot of things undone. We're in complete denial of what we should do. For us to be able to accelerate, for us to be able to make progress, we must come to that realization that we've been conditioned in such a way that we really can't make progress until we decondition ourselves. For instance, in different gatherings, I've asked people to refer to me as chairlady and not chairman. But the truth is, for a lot of our women out there, they still prefer to be called a chairman. And I think that that is part of the conditioning that we need to revamp, we need to refocus, we need to address. If we're able to address this, the next step for me is for us to advocate for effective and efficient justice system. In our courts today, if you have a case of domestic violence, if you have a case of rape, the justice system almost denies you justice. Not only that, it takes you a very long time. And we all know that justice delayed is justice denied. Again, there are no proper investigations. Our police officers treat domestic violence as a family matter rather than an offense that needed some address and justice. And so we need to advocate, we need to demand, be it through riots, be it through petitions, be it through strikes, we need to demand that effective and efficient justice system will have to come to play. And for me, finally, the third important strategy that women need to adopt to accelerate progress, action, is for us to massively train our children, particularly the boy child. Because when we talk about mentorship is not only about being on the queue for people to learn from you. Our actions, our inactions forms mentorship shadows for young people. And so we must go back to the children. Right from the kindergarten years, we must come up with a structure. We must come up with a code of conduct. We must educate them in such a way that by the time they are teenagers, by the time they are young adults, they understand what it means to respect. They understand what it means to ensure that the dignity of the human person, particularly the woman and the girl child, are properly observed. We need to train them on family values. We need to take them away from the crises within our environment and our society. And all of that needs training. Training will have to be done before mentorship. I hear a lot of people talk about mentorship these days. Unfortunately, for a lot of people out there, mentorship is not what is needed. It is training, 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 and retraining.
Fortunately, in Nigeria today, the federal government does not discriminate in terms of salaries. Whether you're a man or a woman, you get the same salary scale. and you are promoted on equal basis. Kudos to the federal government, to Nigeria for that. But in the private sector, things are different. In some companies, this is the areas that we have to work on because the job content is the same.
Gender equity, gender equality addresses two different things, and they are both very important. So when we talk about gender equality, we're saying that you give a level playing field for every human being to participate in. That is what gender equality means. Now, whether there are some nuances as to the physical ability of a man and a woman, that is secondary. That's not what it is